going into Pesach. Okay. The morale is so phenomenal, it's unbelievable, you know? His whole approach, the way he sees things. You know, a person just, people just gloss over everything, everything. This is his approach. Look, if you have his understanding when you learn Kabbalah, it's a whole way your mind is geared to be able to process many things. Okay? Well, with that you could understand all Chazal. There was a story with the Satmar Rov. It's an interesting story. Rabbi, it's a good story. With the Satmar Rov. Somebody goes to the Satmar Rebbe. He was a genius, but he was very sharp. And he says, you know, he's concerned. It says, in Shishim the Zikna, when you're 60, you get age. He says, you know, I'm concerned, I'm 60. I'm entering into old age. He says, when you reach 40, which has been Arbom Labina, were you concerned? It didn't happen. He says, it didn't happen, don't worry about 60. Bina you never got, okay. You heard that, David? Yeah. Okay, even a Litvisher Mishna appreciates that. Okay, we left off 294. Moshe is not coming in today. Okay. Tofresh Pei. B'leil Shabbos tzorach litein shum davar lo chutz bein haneros lePesach. Right? He's speaking about in the olden days they lit the candles by the door. So Erev Shabbos you have to put something to separate between the candles and the Pesach. Why? Because Hanukkah is in the winter, so it's exposed to wind. So it's going to blow out the candles. We said earlier, it has to burn minimally half an hour into nightfall. What happens initially when you light it? It's not meant to light. It's going to blow out. You can put all the fuel in the world, but if it's not going to light, you light it, and within a moment it's going to blow out. It's going to blow out. It's not a valid lighting. It has to be a lighting which it can burn that period of time. So he says, therefore, you should put something separating between the candles and the doorway. But the question is, if this is the case, it's true always, even during the week. If it's a question, it's going to be a faulty lighting. So why is it only Shabbos? Why is it only Friday? So he explains, when the door is closed, it's not a problem. During the week, you open it, okay, whatever it is. You can protect it. Shabbos, you can't go near the candles. Let's see Mishna Berura. B'leil Shabbos hu adim b'chol tzorach lizor bozeh shulhamen aneres neged hamokum shesholik shamar ruach. He says, even during the week, even though the Mechaber says Shabbos, but even during the week, because we hold hadlokos a mitzvah. If hadlokos a mitzvah, it has to be a lighting that it could burn the period of time. So even during the week, you have to be careful. Elab the Shabbos tzorach shmiri yiseru bozeh. Because during the week, you can put your hand near the candle. Shabbos, you can't go near the candles on Shabbos. Shum davar lo chutz hainu b'mokum shemadlikin haneres neged haPesach habayis mibifnim. See, this is speaking where you light the candles inside the house, but the door is closed. So the concern is, when you open the door, the wind is going to blow out the candles. Gamokum shemadlikin b'kosel achori adeles. Ish lizor b'zeh kedleos reishim reishayin zayin. Avo b'mokum shemadlikin b'beis hachoref. V'yishbayis lefnei beis hachoref. Speaking where you have the inner room and you have the outer room. In the spring, the summer, they would live in the outer room. In the winter, they live in the inner room. So if it's the inner room, so it's protected by the outer room. And loch shel kiboy, it's like, they have these restaurants. They put out this makeshift room on the outside, so when people come in, so the wind shouldn't blow straight into the restaurant. They have this outer, it's made of canvas. And loch shel kiboy. He says, even if it should go out, when you open the door, but since it's not inevitable, because it's in the inner room, what about if actually one corresponds to the other? Understand? When you open, let's say you open both doors, the outer door, so the wind blows straight in. Sometimes the doors, they're not opposite one another. It's off to the side. So even if the wind blows in, it's off, right? Like let's say you angle it, so it's at the Pesach of the inner room, but it's not facing the outer door. He says if that is the case, they are opposite one another. Make sure to close the outer door before you open the inner door. What? No, this doesn't. It's like a person eats something which is tainted. You get sick. He says, I didn't want to get sick. It's irrelevant. You're going to get sick. Has to do with Shabbos, whether you're in violation of Shabbos or not. That has to do. Here you have to light a lighting that it's going to burn the half an hour. It's inevitable. It's not going to burn. It's not valid. Whether you want it or not, but you did something which is not valid. Beina Neros, let's see. So he says you should put something to separate between the candles and the door. Because you're extinguishing the fire. I mean, that's the halacha. Let's say you have windows, your candles are burning in the window, so you want to open the window. Forget about Chanukah. On Shabbos, what are you doing? It's kiboy, right? That's a direct, you're extinguishing the candles by opening the window. So Shabbos, the halacha is that if you have candles burning opposite the door, and it's inevitable when you open that door, you're going to blow out the candles and be blown out by the wind, you're not permitted to open the door. That's the equivalent of kiboy, of extinguishing. Even there it's a psikresha lo nichalei. I mean, you don't want the candle, but factually, even psikresha lo nichalei is also midrabanan. Name may not be in his doraisa, but midrabanan you're not permitted to do it. We're talking about even inside. We're talking about here lighting inside. He says the inner part of the door, the inside. At one time, today you have insulated windows. One time everything was drafty. And in those days they had shutters. That's how they kept the wind out. But if you're going to have a Hanukkah, like Hanukkah, you can't have the shutter closed. So the shutter is not there. There's drafts coming in. So you can imagine if you open the door, what happens. Right?
Even after half an hour?
No, after half an hour, you can open the door. Shabbos you can't. Because Shabbos, it's not a question of fulfilling the mitzvah of Hanukkah lights. You're causing the candle to be extinguished. It's equivalent of you're extinguishing the candle. You want to give me equivalence of psikresha? Okay, let me give you a better equivalent. Psikresha of lo yomos, you take a chicken and you cut off its head. Say, I'm not interested in killing it, I just need the head for whatever. Is that a better example of psikresha? That's exactly what psikresha lo yomos means. Could you cut off that? Isn't the chicken, or isn't the rooster going to die? Psikresha lo yomos. Same thing. You break the eye, you're putting on. It's a whole different discussion. You didn't realize. After the fact, you realize you walk through an electronic eye. Same thing. Ignorance is bliss. It's like a person who thinks he's a Talmud Chacham, but he's not a Talmud Chacham. He believes he is, okay? Okay, Beis. Now, it's interesting. If, let's say you have a ledge on the door, and you have the candles on the door, without kiboy, what about muktzah? Let's say a person has a candle burning. Are you permitted to pick it up and move it? You're not permitted to move it. Firstly, it's muktzah. Secondly, what about if you're dealing especially with an oil candle where the oil shifts? Shabbos question, right? So first of all, a candle, a receptacle with oil and a wick in it burning, you're not permitted to move. Firstly, it's muktzah. Correct? No. On a rabbinical, for sure now. It's muktzah. What about as you move it, the oil shifts, it shifts away from the wick and to the wick. Right? It's a question of kibui, havara. Either burns more intensely or burns less intensely. More intensely, more oil is being consumed. Less intensely, so what? You're drawing away oil. I mean, Tosa says in Deo that if you have a candle, an oil candle, and you take oil out of the receptacle, you have 3 hours worth of oil. Take out an ounce. You're in violation of kibui. The Gemara says you're in violation of kibui. No, you're in violation of kibui. Less man de poluk. Nobody argues. So Tosa says, why? But factually it's burning. It's not because it's going to burn less later. It's because factually says when you take oil out, somehow it detracts from the light. The wick itself, when you have something in a receptacle, there's pressure. There's a pressure in there. So when there's less oil, the pressure on that wick is a different level of pressure. So that itself, to whatever degree it affects the flame, that's a question of kibui. Because it's burning, even though it may not be noticeable visually, but there's a less intensity of burning. Therefore, that's kibui. It's Tosa and Beya. The Erev Shabbos oslik vod neiris atzmo. You're not permitted to put the candles on the back of the door. V'yishmi shematir. Mishna Berura Chanukah psichos liloso mikarev Hashem and lener. She says, because as you open and close the door, either the oil shifts to the wick or shifts away from the wick, moving it back and forth. It's either extinguishing or you're actually kindling. But that's not your intent. Again, but it's inevitable. That's what we call psikresha. Who psikresha? This is a Shabbos question. Now it's interesting. But one thing you see from that halacha, and it's a question, let's say a person comes up. At one time, when you open your trunk with a key, not with the electronic opener. Person forgets something in his trunk on Shabbos. It's with an air of, this is before a person had a light in his trunk. Right? And you want to get something out of your trunk on Shabbos. Are you permitted to open the trunk and take something out? Because the lid, you're moving the lid. Why are you permitted to sit on a car on Shabbos? You want to sit on a car on Shabbos. You can. Why can you? Because the prohibition of books is only if something that can be moved. Something that you can't move, let's say you have a boulder. You're permitted to sit on the boulder. You're permitted. But let's say to touch a stone. What's that? No, that's a different prohibition. That's a different prohibition leaning against a tree. If you want to touch a stone on the ground, you're not permitted to touch the stone. Because a stone you could move. But a boulder, which you can't move, you could sit on the boulder on Shabbos. A car, you can't move a car. Right? Physically, you can't move it. You're permitted to sit on it.
But opening the door, you're moving something.
Wait. That's the discussion over here. So let's say the trunk. You want to open the car door. Let's say the light. You shut the light off. You want to open the door. Is that called moving? Or do we say, because since it's attached to something that's stationary, that's not called moving? Right? We discussed this when we learned Masechah Shabbos. Maybe that's not called moving. So seemingly from this halacha, you see that it's not called moving. Because the discussion is not muktzah. It's only because the candles are burning and the oil is going to shift towards the wick and away from the wick. Just a question of havora and kibui. But what about the actual, let's say after the candles go out? It still should not be permitted because the receptacle that the candles originally burnt in are muktzah, correct? And yet, it seems to be you could move the door back and forth. The door is attached on its hinge, right? But you're moving muktzah. The answer is that's not muktzah. That's not called moving because it's still stationary in its location. You look at where it is. You understand? So the same thing with the trunk of the lid on the trunk. Because the lid is attached to the car and the car is something which cannot be moved, that's not called moving the lid. Although physically it's moving up and down.
By sitting in a car on Shabbos is an issue with no science. People see you sitting in a car on Shabbos.
Let's talk about it. I had a friend years ago, still a friend, and his father owned was in the scrap metal business in Milwaukee. It's scrap yards. And he would bring cars, they would crush them. Car just was brought to the junkyard. You sitting in the car. Nobody thinks that this car is going anywhere. You got it? There's no front, there's no back, but you're sitting in the car. Is it a question of, it's not marasayin. Is that, oh, you're in violation of muktzah. When you open the car door and go inside and sit there, you move the car door. Okay? It's not considered moving muktzah. Because since it's attached to something that cannot be moved, even though you're moving the car door or the trunk lid, that's not considered moving.
What was he doing in the junkyard on Shabbos?
This is a real question. Because if, let's say you turn the lights off in your car, forget something on Shabbos, you could go into your car and...
That's what we're talking about. That's exactly. That's what, right. I know a certain person lives in Lakewood. You know, they live in cramped quarters, and they had a car that they don't drive any longer, and they use the trunk that's the car parked in the parking lot, which doesn't have plates. He stores, things are on sale, he stores everything in the trunk. The trunk, the car itself. So whenever he needs something, he goes, takes it out of the trunk. You know, paper towels, you know, it's bulky. One time you used to buy one roll. Today you buy 15 or 18 rolls. Okay, so where do you put it? You can put 3 kids in the location where you put one of these things of paper towels. So he stores it in the trunk, on the back seat, whatever it is. You open the doors, there's no lights. Open the trunk, there's no light. He has to go Shabbos. Is it a question? So according to this, it's not a question. He's permitted to do it. It's not a question of muktzah. What?
I'm not saying according to the Talmud, you got something in Shabbos, but you just carry towels in your trunk, and there's no light would go on. You're going to your driveway and take it out.
See, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. But let's say somebody else, an ordinary Jew does it, where they won't draw any lesson from it. Like somebody once asked me, would I go in an elevator, even if you'd have a Shabbos elevator in Manhattan, would I use a Shabbos elevator? I'd say I wouldn't. Why wouldn't I use it? Because people say you're permitted to go in an elevator. Do they understand there's a Shabbos elevator versus other elevators which don't meet the criteria of Shabbos? People don't know. Well, if I did it, that permits it. You understand? That's why I wouldn't do it. Whatever it is. Hospitals, everybody knows. A hospital, it's an exception. Right? They provide, they have that accommodation. I wouldn't be worried about it. I wouldn't be.
What about a hotel?
Hotel also I wouldn't, for the same reason.
There's signs that say Shabbos elevator.
Yeah, but not every elevator is a Shabbos elevator.
No, I'm saying
Right, right.
the big sign.
Hospital's not a question. Hospital's not a question. Anybody knows the hospital provides that accommodation for people. Not every hotel. Some hotels, the hospital, the Shabbos elevator is not really a real Shabbos elevator. They have a elevator. They have a non-Jew going in, and he presses the buttons. That stops at every floor. So it's a regular elevator. So it's not computerized that it should stop at every floor. It's not. So the non-Jew is instructed to do on behalf of the Jew to stop at every floor. No, it's not a question. It's okay. Yeah, sure. In Israel they have these. Every hotel has those elevators. Okay. No. Okay.